Hey, Mama Bear. Come in, Mama Bear. Over. Hey folks, welcome back to the cabin. I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
And today on Cabin Life, we're going to talk about some of the safety concerns that came up as a result of a recent video that we published. It was called "I Checked the Trail Cam and This Happened," and there was a lot of good comments that came as a result of that.
Yeah, and one of the main comments was people were concerned that Glenn was cold.
We're going to discuss all that, how I was dressed. Now, we also had a lot of comments from viewers that were saying that they wanted me to get back to the cabin as quickly as possible. And hurry up, run, get back to the cabin. While it was cold out and the temperature had dropped about 10 degrees over a 2-hour period and it started snowing and getting windy and so forth, I was actually quite warm. It was cold out, but I personally was quite warm. I dressed in layers, and I usually dress in layers. I don't have a lot of body fat on me, so I like to dress a little warmer than what I think I need to, and that way I can always take a layer off if I have to. I was wearing my t-shirt. I have a sweater, pullover sweater over that. It can button up right up to the neck here if I want. And this is a heavy sweater that I was also wearing. It's got a zipper that goes right up and around, right around the neck, like a turtleneck, and I can keep all the wind and all that stuff out. So I can zip those up. I also, over top of those two sweaters, I have my hoodie. Also zips up, and the hoodie goes over top of, I've got a toque that went over top of my hat. And like I say, sometimes my ears get cold in the wind. So if I've got a good hat on, a toque that comes over my ears like that, and then my hoodie that comes down over top of that, I can always tie the hoodie up if I need to. But that particular day, I just had it open, and I was plenty warm enough. In fact, I had to leave everything open. On top of that sweater, by the way, I was wearing a pair of pants and a pair of joggers under that, and I also had my canvas trousers that went over top of those two pairs of pants. The trousers zip right up to my chest and around my back. So all of those were over top. Then over top of that whole thing was my winter coat. It's a winter line coat, and it's quite warm. Again, it zips right up to the top as well. So I was plenty warm. As a matter of fact, if I'd have zipped up anything and kept walking and went fast, I probably would have overheated. And that's why I was stopping as often as I was, so that I would not get overheated. Because you get overheated, you can sweat. And then you start to sweat, then you get cold when you stop. And that could lead to risk of hyperthermia. So gotta be careful of that.
I find that myself, I have to be really careful as well. Now, one viewer made a suggestion to wear a one-piece snowsuit. And I did have a one-piece once, and I loved it for things like sitting around the campfire and not doing a whole lot of stuff, just enjoying outside. But going for a walk or a hike or doing any activity like piling firewood, it would get way, way too hot. So for me, I find having separate pants and again dressing in layers is far, far better than a one-piece good warm snowsuit.
Now, people were genuinely concerned about my safety as I walked along the trail. I started losing my light. It started getting a little bit dark in the late afternoon, and I still had a fair ways to go to get to the cabin. And people were wondering if I was prepared. Not only did I have enough clothes and so forth, but
people are asking things like if you had any communication back to me at the cabin, if you had a cell phone, if you had walkie-talkies.
Did I have protection?
What happened if you fell and you couldn't call Maureen? What would happen?
Right. All good points. And we do appreciate your genuine concern.
Oh, for sure.
When I walk in the bush, I am very mindful of safety. And I was asked, where's my walking stick? Well, you know what? I do have a walking stick, and I do normally carry it when I don't carry a tripod in my other hand. This particular day, I came out, I had my tripod in my hand, and in a way, I guess for me, subconsciously, it took the place of my walking stick that I usually have there. So, okay, I didn't bring my walking stick that day. I do have a pack, which I wear, and it has some of my safety gear in there. And we also have a backpack when we're hiking in the wilderness that we can keep, extra, big things that we need that take up more space and so forth. I'll show you some of the stuff that I take when I'm, just out for a little hike on the trail. Okay, I have my pack inside of my trousers. I've got about 10 pockets in the trousers, and in the trousers I have my ferro rod, which I start fires with. I'm fairly adept at starting fires, but in case there's no dry tinder, I have a little bit of cotton ball soaked in oil, and that works really well at starting a fire. And then we have, I'll tell you, there's a noisemaker. I have a bunch of flagging tape, marking tape that I can put on trees and so forth. Mark my way as I go. I do have a whistle. I also have another headlight with good batteries in it. I have another whistle that I usually have around my neck as I walk. And do I carry safety precautions? That's a bear banger, and that sounds just like a shotgun when you let this capsule off. And that works for if I ever feel threatened by an animal. Perhaps an animal may have, be rabid or whatever. I've got another ferro rod here, which I use for fires. And if I need it, they say one is none, two is one, right? So I also have a compass, which I use when I need to. You got to know what direction you're in. I do have backup lighter just in case, but these don't work very well in the bitter cold. So it is a good idea to have the ferro rod, because in the bitter cold, those lighters do not necessarily work. I also happen to have another lighter here. And what else do we have here? Oh, a couple of chapsticks, another mini lighter, and I've got my knife that my buddy gave to me when I was very young. Here, yet another lighter. Yeah, everything's in the bag. And if I'm bored and I'm on the trail and I got to kill some time, this is one of them little 15 puzzles. And I've got a scarf that I also have that I can wear. And I don't always wear it because this thing is so warm. I made this in high school, and it does keep me very warm when I need it on those bitterly cold days. And I can roll it up and actually put it in my pocket if I need to. And if it continues that the blowing snow and everything, I do have one of these, and that keeps the wind and everything out. Hey. All right. Now, people also asked about communications, and I do have a phone that that I carry with me, and that's the one that's filming right now. So all our videos are done with a cell phone, and that's the only camera that I use. And yes, I was out in the bush filming myself with the one camera and moving the tripod around to get the shots and all that. So the other thing too that people wondered about was, do we have walkie-talkies? Actually, yes, we do. In fact, have walkie-talkies, and we have two backups. It's always nice when we have a company going out on a hike, all four of us. And sometimes it's nice just to have these two charged up and on standby, so that in the event that perhaps these ones run out of batteries, we do have these other two that we can just tune them into the same channel, and away we go. Hey, Mama Bear. Come in, Mama Bear. Over.
Hi, Papa Bear.
I'll be there in about 20 minutes. Over and out.
Sounds good. Over and out.
The range seems pretty good with them, and they're easy to operate as long as you remember to say over and out, right? But Maureen's getting that down.
As far as communication, people were asking what would happen if Glenn fell and couldn't get up, or if he got injured or something. Well, we have set times that we call each other on the walkie-talkies.
I tell her where I'm going ahead of time. I'm going down to check the number 5 trail cam down off the Skidder Trail. I'm just going to wander around there. I don't plan on going anywhere else, and then I'm coming back to the cabin. And then at 1 o'clock we called, and 7 o'clock. It was about 10 to 7. I knew I was getting pretty close to my call-in time, but it took a little longer than what I expected. If it came to that where she had to go looking for me, I didn't call in on the walkie-talkie, I didn't phone or anything like that. She would go walking down the trail to the spot where I turn off to go down the Skidder Trail and towards that cam, and she would yell out. She would call on the walkie-talkie again. She'd take her whistle. She'd blow the whistle 3 times for me. And then hopefully she hears an answer back. And she can only assume if I don't answer back, that I'm honkering down, and that she would then, in that case, go and, get some help.
Glenn is very mindful of safety when in the wilderness, about being safe and all the protocols. He's very mindful of safety for both of us. Now, we have been hiking and canoeing and exploring in the wilderness for close to 45 years. We're very familiar with it. We feel very safe. We're always aware. We know what to watch out for. We know what hazards to look for. So we're both quite comfortable in the wilderness.
And we do genuinely appreciate your concern for our safety. Those that are watching from other areas, other geographical areas perhaps, even in another country where they don't experience snow, it can be a situation that is new and unfamiliar to you as a viewer. You may automatically think that, oh my gosh, this is really dangerous. We've watched people that from Australia, for instance, walking through the thick bush, the amount of spiders and snakes, and we felt the same way for them, but they know how to be safe and mitigate those risks. So same with us. We've grown up in the wilderness, and we've become accustomed to what you need to do and the precautions that you need to take.
Was there ever a time when you were out in the wilderness that you were truly scared, frightened because of something that happened?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a time. Actually there's 2 times. I was solo camping alone one year. Oh, what's the name of that provincial park on the water? Georgian Bay.
Massasauga.
Yeah, Massasauga Provincial Park. I was out canoeing, and I was solo, and there was a bear behind my tent one night. I heard him sniffing and snorting and that kind of a thing, and I just stayed in the tent and didn't do anything, and I was just hoping that he was just going to pass on by. He did. That's what happened. So luckily for me, I had my food was hung in a branch on a tree not too far away, but so I wasn't really bothered by the bear. But it woke me up, and it did startle me and got me going. The other time was another time that I thought that I thought I was being stalked by a bear. Maureen and I were walking in the bush. She had a day pack on and bottle of water and all that. And we were walking along. I was ahead of her, and all of a sudden I heard this kind of a sound, the sound that a bear makes when he pops his jaw. It's called jaw popping, kind of a thing. And I thought I was hearing that, and it's like, Maureen, what's that sound? Right? I hear something, and so I don't know. And so I said, well, come on, we got to get off the trail here and go into another spot. And it was dark out, and I heard, as we got going, I heard buck again. I thought, oh my gosh, this thing is right on right on us. So I turned around. I told her to squat down, and as she squatted down, all of a sudden I heard buck right beside me. It's like, what? And then I looked out. It was her water bottle was jiggling and gurgling on her side of her pack. Blook, blook, blook.
Now, what's the significance of the jaw popping?
Oh, well, the reason why that scared me when I heard that sound is because that's a bear being threatened, and it's ready to. That's
like a warning.
It sees danger, and then its adrenaline starts to go. And then it starts popping his jaw, like, and drooling and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what I know. Okay, we could be in for a situation here if you hear that sound. So it got the heart palpitating that time. This was many years ago, a couple decades ago now. So
but it's something to be worried about.
Well, yeah, you got to be cautious, especially it's the unknown, the things that you're not sure of, right? Those are usually what makes you frightened, right? Because it's something unknown. When you know what it is and you're familiar with it, then the fear tends to subside because you're aware. Now, we've spent a lot of time hiking in the wilderness, in the bush. We've spent a lot of time in the canoe, recording, and as a nature recordist, Maureen likes to come out on our excursions. She'll come out in the canoe with me, and we found a very secluded lake. I got to know pretty much every inch of that lake, where all the deadheads, where all the stumps, where all the rocks, the hazards were by day. And then I would go and paddle that lake at night. Often I would go solo, but Maureen would come with me many times as well. And she'd bring a pillow and a sleeping bag, and she'd cover herself up in the bow front of the canoe. And she'd go to sleep under the stars. I'd have the headphones on and listen to the loons calling and the wolves howling. I hear loons perhaps at the far end of the lake, and then I just slowly make my way down to that end of the lake, knowing they were there, and then wait and see if I could get a sound bite of the loons. To me, it was just something I love to do. To me, it's amazing. And it's a great experience being able to do that on a lake all night long, under the stars or a full moon, and enjoying that peace and quiet and tranquility, the freedom you experience when you're doing that. And it's just a very unique experience. So we've been out in the bush a lot. We've hiked a lot. We do try to always be prepared. Now, other viewers had suggested that, why don't you have your snowshoes on? You got to have your snowshoes. Look at the amount of snow. Well, as I had commented on the video, that the bush is pretty gnarly and tangly with a lot of branches that, they're just below the surface of the snow, and the snowshoes dig in below that and then get caught in all the branches and whatnot. And it's caused me to actually fall by catching on a branch before and fall into the snow. So for that reason, I didn't take the snowshoes into the bush on the Skidder Trail that day. Now, if I was just going on a nice flat trail, then it wouldn't be a problem wearing the snowshoes. Right now, actually, we've had, probably another quite a bit of snow on the trail, in the Skidder Trail where I was. You can go in snowshoes with that today, because the way it packs down, you still don't have any worry about getting those branches and stuff. But just the same, there are so many young saplings and whatnot, all the trees, the way the lay of the land is here. Every 6 or 8 inches, there's another tree. Trying to walk through the bush with snowshoes on that are this wide and trying to zigzag through it, it just slows you down and makes you work a lot harder. And that's why I went in with the boots that day.
You need to know the land when you're walking in deep snow so that you know what's possibly underneath. And we usually stay on the existing trails. They don't look like trails in the winter, but we know where the trails are. Yeah,
so it makes you work. And you can really get warm walking on the trail or even in the back bush with the snowshoes. Now, in the deep, fluffy snow, it's actually pretty hard to walk with snowshoes. The fluffy snow piles down on top of the snowshoe as you put your foot down, and then you have to pull all the weight of all that snow up and make your next step. When the snow is more like packing, like if you can make a snowball with the snow, then that's usually more conducive to snowshoeing because then the snow packs, below the snowshoe, and you can still lift your foot up without having to lift excess weight from, snow that's accumulated on it. And somebody else had asked, why don't you use a snowmobile? Right? That would get us around that much faster. Well, when I'm checking the trails, out for a hike, enjoying nature, I don't want to use a snowmobile. The snowmobile is very noisy. If we always used a snowmobile, then it would probably keep the wildlife away from the trail cams and from our 40 acres here. So we don't have a snowmobile. We do appreciate that, yeah, you could get around and they are convenient and so forth. But at this point, we don't feel the need for one. Another viewer had commented and said, "You're too old to be out in this mess." Well, that may be, but I can still walk and I can hike, and I enjoy hiking on our 40 acres. That's why we're here, to enjoy nature, and I want to enjoy it to the fullest. A little story about that. Back in 2014, after having cancer surgery successfully, I came onto the land. Maureen and I had retired, and I had vowed from that day on that I would make the most of every day. And if I can be out in the forest, out in the wilderness, walking the trails, hiking, paddling the canoe, and being with nature, to me, that makes my life worthwhile. It's what I enjoy. It's what I love. And so I walk even when it is snowing or when it is blizzards out because I can. I hate the thought of one day being on this land and then not being able to walk up the trail, to venture, here to the cabin, to be out in the woods and to check the trail cams. So I'm going to take advantage of that right now as I can. And touch wood, all is good. And I feel healthy, I feel fit, and I'm hoping that this will continue on for a good long time.
The bulk of the comments were about their enjoyment of watching the snowy weather and the scenery and the different scenery that Glenn showed on his hike.
A lot of people really enjoy the natural beauty that we have around us and our freedom that we have to explore our surroundings right here on our 40 acres. And we loved sharing it with you. Check out this playlist for more adventures right here on Cabin Life. That's all for now. I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
We'll see you next time. Over and out.
Take care.